This video will outline the 7-week mutual aid group week by week. Note there are 3 introductory sessions in the first part of the group meetings. Then in the middle there is the Labyrinth session, which is kind of a microcosm of the 7 weeks during the 4th week. And then the last 3 sessions are part of the continued processing of the members' work and the closure of the group. There are 6 worksheets that will be utilized during the sessions. In week 1, there's the Somewhere Along the Road worksheet and My Strengths. And then there's this represents the paper finger labyrinth site where you would select the paper labyrinth you're going to use with group members and copy from there. That's mainly a site, and it's a form, but it's not part of the worksheets. And then a labyrinth walk worksheet, which will parallel what's going on. I'll explain that a little when we get there. Then I have a setup a sheet for the art expression, which is kind of a snapshot of the present time, looking at the vision of the miracle vision, which is the goal that the members work out as they're in the labyrinth walk in the center. Then there's a site for the inspirational words. You can print that as well. You'll find it on the website. And then the other form for the labyrinth walk will be the conversation form. Here we'll be having a conversation with the successful self. I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go through this. And then the last sheet is the My Strengths sheet, which will be members of the group observing over the time they've been together what the strengths of each member are, and they will write that on this form. And at this juncture, the members will look at their own listing of strengths at the beginning of the process and look at the strengths that members have seen during the process, and they will talk about that in their mutual aid group. So starting then with week number 1, the first session is an introduction to the group. And here members will establish rapport with the group worker and members in the group. And they will then engage in an exercise where they try to locate themselves in the here and now, in the present moment, focusing on the major concerns of life surrounding their current circumstances. And that would be the Somewhere Along the Road worksheet, which will be kind of the triggering of the ideas for this part of their initial work. And then they will talk about the reasons they have joined the group as part of this process, mainly probably to work out some kind of issue that they're concerned with. And then at the end of session 1, having members reflect on their own personal strengths. What are their strengths? And they would complete the My Strengths worksheet here, placing the most important or strongest strengths in the middle and other strengths out around the center of the worksheet. Mainly looking at past experiences where they've overcome difficulties. What strengths did they use to help them cope and move forward? So these are the kinds of things that they would want to place on that worksheet. And then in week 2, they will engage in a discussion of their strengths with the group, seeking mutual aid support, and discuss their current life circumstance and the focal problem with which they are working or going to be working during the 7-week period. Members will then select some kind of a skill they feel they need to practice and master to some degree that they will need to reach their goal. In other words, as they did their strengths, they may find that there's something additional they need to work on, and so that would be what they would select to work on week 3. They will engage in developing a role play and developing confidence in the particular skill they need to, upon which they need to work. So the praxis will be attempting to build skill. And then in week 3, there will be a discussion and overview of the labyrinth walk and the role play. Members will concretize their problem by engaging in mutual aid input from the group. They will then write statements of the problem, thinking about the skill they have chosen to work on. And next, members will select a partner with whom to role play. each person will role play the skill in that dyad as the session evolves. The group will break into dyads for the role play at that point, and members will discuss the role play experience, sharing key insights after all members have had a chance to do the role play. And finally, the group worker will provide a brief historical overview of the labyrinth and talk about the process of finger walking the labyrinth in preparation for next week's session. So then in week 4, which is the center of the succession of groups from 1 to 7, the worker will um, prepare copies of the worksheets that we talked about earlier and hand them out to the group. During the walk, members will have the finger labyrinth and the labyrinth walk notes. So the labyrinth that's chosen and the note page here. And next they will quiet down and focus on the miracle question. Prior to the miracle question, they will rewrite again their key concern or problem in this left quadrant, and then focus on the miracle question. So writing down, perhaps closing their eyes, and focusing on the miracle question and visualizing what they consider the miracle vision. So basically asking if they went to sleep this evening and woke up tomorrow and the problem is solved, what might that look like? This would be kind of a beginning step in developing that as much as strongly as possible, the miracle vision. Members will then document in the notes on the bottom here a description of the miracle vision. In other words, it would be a written description of what that vision is for them. And then they will follow the written description with an art expression. So this would be the sheet in which they will place their artwork that depicts as vividly as possible the vision of the solution that they're seeking. Then, upon completion of the artwork, they will select a inspirational word which will be used to anchor their experience of transformational images and vision in the central work of the labyrinth here. And as members prepare to walk out of the labyrinth, they will be engaging in a conversation with their successful self they view in that miracle vision. In other words, having reached that point, what were the stages that the person may have had to do or go through in order to attain the resolution? So the work here is that here would be, again, the development of the question or focus in terms of the miracle vision, and they will be asking, specifically steps to reach the goal. That's what they're seeking from their higher self, from their successful self, and and as they work through the labyrinth and come out at the other end, because it's the same path out as it is inwards, they will briefly note what they discovered in the conversation on the way out with the successful self. And that would be located here. There's a little few lines to write about what was discovered during that process. And then they will respond to a scaling question. How confident are you that you will reach your desired goal on a 1 to 100 scale? Then moving into week 5, this will be a bridge experience from the microcosmic work in the middle, including the stages and steps that they had done prior. So in other words, each phase of this 3-phase process, meetings 1 to 3, they're developing and seeking mutual aid to frame the question. They bring it into the labyrinth walk, work on the transformation of the concern they have by themselves, and then bridge it back into the group work with their insights and discoveries that went on in week 4. So that's what's going to happen in 5. So that's what this bridging is about. It's bringing back, reflecting on what went before, and the betwixt and between kind of sense that they had, where they were coming from where they were experiencing the problem to where they've resolved it. So that's that transformation element in the middle through that throughput kind of thing. And then the members will share with others the miracle vision and their inspirational word in order to get to their goal, because they'll be encouraged to use the inspirational word or at least think about it on a daily basis. and seek members' further input and observation in terms of the mutual aid to help them more tightly pull together their steps and intended process to get to their goal of overcoming whatever the issue they've brought to the group with them. And then in session 6, they'll further explore the vision and unfinished business members may have. Finally, in group session, the members share observations of each other's strengths. This is sort of a ritual, which is kind of a rites of passage idea, where at the end there's a ritual to kind of help, again, uh, punctuate the transformational process that has been developed over the 7 weeks that members are taking away from the group with them. Members will share what they've discovered and how this can assist them in receiving the input from others, because at the core of this group will be each member sharing with each other member the strengths they've observed them utilize during the 7 weeks that they've come to know them, and which is a very affirming experience. And then at the end of that sharing, members will then, as they are each worked with, because they'll work one at a time with members, as the group shares, and then the member will have brought their earlier worksheet with them, and we'll talk about what they've discovered in their listing of strengths and what others see as strengths within them. So this is a really good mutual aid discussion that each member will experience as part of the closure to the group. And then that's pretty much an overview of the 7 weeks of the mutual aid group using the Labyrinth. The further thing I would like to suggest is that there's a resources you may use. If you don't like the paper labyrinths or want to use something like more plastic or of a different type or wood, Relax for Life has a number of labyrinths, so I suggest that you might consider looking at that website. And also, the Worldwide Labyrinth Locator are looking more at walking labyrinths, so you may want to access that as well. And then further, handouts that you can be finding related to the group is on the website that I've given you, gjacinto.org, and click on Menu and Mutual Aid Group Resources. Thank you. I hope this has been helpful.